Okay. What's going on, Card Nation? This is John with Cardinal Craze. Today on the show, we have the Gridiron expert back on Cardinal Craze, talk about the opening game, Louisville versus Syracuse. Uh, Alex, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Card Nation, if you're not aware, this is the Gridiron expert. He does breakdowns of college and some NFL, I believe, previews and expectations, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Nonstop college football content. We dabble a little bit with the NFL, and so we do a lot of videos over on YouTube, and then have some our spread predictions over on our website. So we're all over the place, but yeah, year-round content.
Well, Alex, we're glad to have you back out on the show and definitely talking about this season opener. So one of the main things that we're going to talk about is the running back situation, maybe even a little bit of the roster, showcase some of that from ESPN, and just kind of talk about what to expect and our predictions for the game.
Yeah, 100%. And I know you and I kind of talked about that leading before we got started. Obviously, the battle between Louisville and Syracuse is going to be really fun if you like, just ground attacks, right? I mean, if you look at the numbers from last year, Louisville was averaging almost 210 rushing yards per game, and Syracuse was averaging nearly 215, 213.5 for Syracuse. The ironic thing about all of that is, you've got a Louisville team, their leading rusher last year, the guy who's going to carry them across the board offensively is their quarterback, right? It's going to be Malik Cunningham. Rushed for over 1,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, was unbelievable. And in Syracuse, you've got Sean Tucker, who quietly was one of the better running backs in the entire country. The reason he didn't get nearly enough attention was because he played for Syracuse, and Syracuse wasn't, contending for anything. He rushed for over 1,400 yards, almost 1,500 yards, 1,496, 12 touchdowns. Again, the team as a whole nearly averaging 215 rushing yards per game. So what I like in this battle here is, right now, and I'm looking at a team that has the edge through the air. It's 100% Louisville. It's 100% the Cardinals. They've got the quarterback edge. They've got the passing edge. But that's not what either team, I think, really wants to do. They want to run the ball. And obviously the game is at Syracuse. It's in the Carrier Dome, so weather's not going to be an issue. So which running game really gets it going the most? And obviously Cunningham isn't the only guy. He's a dangerous dual threat QB, but you've got Jalen Mitchell coming back, and Evans is in, obviously transferring in from Tennessee. So there's people there that are going to make maybe major factors, but that's the battle I'm more excited to see. Is this the running game from both programs, and how that fares on third.
Now, definitely, I agree with all of it. And one of the main key things that I kind of want to point out is the fact that this is in the Carrier Dome. There's not going to be any weather. There's not going to be too much wind or not enough wind. So I think this is going to be kind of a neutral situation for both teams starting off. And obviously, with both teams kind of run heavy focus, what would you say the first couple quarters are going to look like?
One thing that I think Louisville, if I'm Scott Satterfield, one of the first things that I think I would do would be to, run to set up the pass. Because here's the thing. Syracuse isn't going to pass the ball well. Garrett Schrader is a good dual threat QB, rushed for nearly 800 yards last year. But Syracuse's passing offense ranked 121st in the nation last year. So they're not going to light up, any secondary. And Louisville obviously added a lot, on their secondary upcoming this year. They're going to be much improved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Scott Satterfield. I'm going up there, and maybe I do a couple design runs with Malik Cunningham. Maybe I, set up the run or run to set up the pass. And if I'm Louisville, I'm taking a couple shots deep early. Syracuse, that's all they're going to be able to do. They've got RPO. You don't know who's going to go to Tucker. You don't know if Schrader's going to keep it, but they are not going to be able to beat you deep. So I think really that first half, it's going to be, the steal Brad Nessler's term. It's like a couple fighters feeling each other out. And that's really what we're going to see. But ultimately, I think we're going to see a more aggressive approach from Louisville, more so than we would see from Syracuse.
Okay. I definitely agree. I think by the third half, we're going to see a much more stable Louisville offense. I think it's going to be more explosive. I think you're still going to have more of those dynamic run plays. Scott Satterfield is known for being a run-first offensive style coach. With that in mind, what would you expect Syracuse to do to try and prepare for this? Do you think they're going to try and work with the secondaries on trying to stop those deep passes, or do you think they're going to focus more on stopping the run game early?
I think obviously you got to attack the strong point, which would be the run game, and so that's what Syracuse has to do. Because here's the ironic thing, John, is Syracuse actually had a top 20 defense last year. They ranked 19th nationally in defense. So despite the record, despite this team not getting a lot of hype, They have a lot of talent coming back, 8 starters back defensively, to the point where they could shut down this. They haven't had success in the past, obviously, but they could shut down this Louisville rushing attack. The thing with Louisville, though, is when you talk about stopping the run, you talk about these defenses that are going to stack the box. You're going to put everybody up front, stack the box, shut down the run. Louisville, you're not going to see, for me, I wouldn't expect too many runs just right up the middle. We expect Cunningham to be able to escape the pocket and scramble. And that's going to be a lot from the outside. Same with the speed that Evans and Mitchell have. You're not going to see too many runs, I think, right up the middle, right at the defensive line. You're going to see some powers. You're going to see some stretches. You're going to see some tosses that are going to be able to stretch that Syracuse defense. And in doing so, stretching that Syracuse defense will, like I said, ultimately set up the pass for Cunningham. So if I'm Syracuse early on, for me, my goal is to make Cunningham throw. It's to contain him in the pocket and make sure he doesn't escape and run and use his legs and force him to throw, because we know that in years past he certainly has had issues with turnovers, sometimes taking the pocket too long with fumbles, sometimes making poor decisions with interceptions. I mean, last year still threw for over 2,900 yards and 19 touchdowns, cut down on the interceptions, only threw 6. But if I'm Syracuse, I'm doing my best to contain him and forcing him, if they're going to pass, forcing him to throw and not allowing him to run.
Okay. And I definitely agree with that. I think trying to contain Malik Cunningham is going to be one of the primary focuses for the Syracuse defense, especially because we know how dynamic he is, especially during the Duke game. If you remember last year, how they just kind of ran all over him. Now, last year when Louisville faced Syracuse, they beat them. I believe it was 41-3. Yeah. Now, obviously, it was a blowout. This time it's on Syracuse turf. Syracuse has a lot to prove. This is kind of their year to prove that they still got what they got, because what we talked about off camera was this game is going to dictate the future of both schedules. All right. Whether or not they're going to be bowl eligible or they're not.
Yeah. And that sounds like a kind of over dramatic, obviously. Some people, I was the one that came up with the idea too. A lot of people would say, it's the first game of the year that's going to dictate the rest of the year, but it can, though. If you look at the schedules for Syracuse and Louisville, I mean, they're brutal. Syracuse, after this game, they have, I see 2 very winnable games against Wagner and UConn. But after that, non-conference against Purdue, you've got Virginia, and then Notre Dame is in the non-conference. NC State, Clemson, Pittsburgh, Florida State, Wake Forest, Boston College. I mean, the schedule is brutal. Same. But right after Syracuse, a road game, they go on the road to UCF, got to go to the bounce house. That's not going to be easy by any means. Florida State's right after that. Road game at Virginia, still got Wake Forest. Road game at Clemson. NC State, who's elite, at Kentucky. I mean, there's so many tough games here where literally this one game in week 1, whoever wins it, that could be the difference between going 5-7 and 6-6 for both these teams when it's all, because the schedules for both are just so difficult. I genuinely think, Louisville, they took easy care of business last year against Syracuse. Things have always changed a little bit. A lot of people, are somewhat high on the Orange, which is slightly surprising to me. But I think it'll be a much more competitive game, and one that when the season ends, regardless of what their records are, both these teams are going to look back and go, this is a winnable game for both of us, and that game is the reason we did go bowling or we didn't.
Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show everybody the schedule. We're looking at ESPN right now. So obviously what Alex was saying, and this is kind of reflecting what the schedule is. You got Syracuse on the road, then you got to go to the University of Central Florida, and then at home you play Florida State. So all 3 of those games, they're going to be biting for a win. This isn't going to be some easy pushover. This is going to be them scrambling to try and be successful. Because the schedule is not easy. This is not a cupcake schedule, understandably. There are some games on there that, do come off as maybe some easy wins. Some of the predictions I have, some of those easy wins could be South Florida, James Madison, and Syracuse. Honestly, those are the 3 easiest wins, in my opinion, for the schedule. But, not to backtrack and just kind of get off topic a little bit too much. But if we go over to the Syracuse schedule, what we look at is essentially, as I'm flipping through the schedule, yes, like you said, they go to, they're at UConn and then Purdue, Virginia, then Wagner. And, from there, it's just going to be there is no real sense of a break. I mean, they have a crazy schedule. I mean, these are already ranked opponents, 5 ranked opponents. So that game, obviously is going to be, like you said, not something that's going to be, over dramatic or, we're making it too much hype, but it's going to really show where the starting point is and how they attack the first opponent.
Yeah. Looking at those schedules, like you just said, I mean, you look at Syracuse, and for both of them for that matter, most of these teams typically play their non-conference games early, and then you get into the bulk of your conference slate. I know Louisville's a little bit different. They have James Madison late, and obviously Alley. But looking at Syracuse, for example, I mean, say they lose to Louisville, they could beat you, should beat UConn, should beat Wagner. But then after that, I mean, like Purdue's really good out of the Big Ten, even though it's at the Carrier Dome. That's not a shoe-in victory like it maybe could have been, 5-6 years ago when Purdue was down. And then the ACC slate, I mean, like you said, NC State to me is a top 10 team. Clemson, obviously a top 10 team. Notre Dame, top 10 team. Pittsburgh ranked. Wake Forest ranked. I mean, it's brutal. Where you look at Syracuse and you go, we need to beat Louisville, and we probably after the Wagner game probably need to be 1, 2, 3, and 2. Let's say that's 5. You got 3 and 2 or 4 and 1 going into the bulk of that schedule just to have a shot at a bowl. And lose that Louisville game, maybe you're 2 and 3 or 1 and 4. Who knows what it could be? And it ruins everything. So that's how important I think. I genuinely think this game is more important for Syracuse than it is for Louisville. Very important for both because there's a possibility that Louisville falls to Syracuse. They're 0 and 2 to start because they could fall to UCF. That's by any means. So, and there's another thing too, John. When it comes to teams here, it's a mentality thing too. If you're, not that Syracuse and Louisville have playoff hopes or conference title hopes, but if you start a season 0 and 2, 0 and 3, or 2 and 3, if you start a season you're halfway through with a losing record or really falling short of your expectations, whatever the expectations are, that it creeps into your head as a player and as a coach. And you can't help but wonder what the mentality is going to be like going forward, especially because even, no one would ever admit that within a program. But if I'm, Louisville looking at my schedule, my month of November, and I got 3 wins, and I go, do I really think we can beat Clemson, NC State, and Kentucky? Or, 2 of them, assuming you beat James Madison. So you got 4. Do I think we can beat 2 of Clemson, NC State? Probably not. No player or coach is going to admit it, but it does get into your head.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I know I made some wild predictions last time we were on the show when we were talking about the Ole Miss game. And I really had a lot higher hopes for that. I actually still have over on the sidebar what I had initially predicted for the game, which was going to be a lot closer than what it was. But mind you, that was last year, different season, new, it's a new mentality. One of the things I did want to ask you about, for Syracuse, they had the transfer, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He was out of transfer from Florida. He was a big hype, especially coming into the program. Obviously, if he does get the starting position, do you think we're going to see kind of a carousel of quarterbacks coming in and out, especially like Justin, I think I pronounce it Lamison? Lamison. There we go. Or do you think we're going to kind of like have this one set mind of this is our starting quarterback, this is who we're going to go with, and this is who we're going to have all 4 quarters?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see a potential quarterback change later in the year because the problem is Schrader has the talent for Syracuse. He's what he thrives in, though, is running the ball. And so, honestly, when it comes to offensive styles, I look at this. Louisville and Syracuse are very similar. You have 2 quarterbacks that are very, very good at running the ball and running backs for both teams that are very, very talented, too. Actually, if you're breaking it down, Cunningham's the better passer. You could argue he's the better rusher, but both him and Schrader are. Syracuse owns the running back edge without a doubt with Sean Tucker. Louisville has good running backs, but I would pick Sean Tucker over Evans or Mitchell, whoever it is. So what Dino Babers has decided is if Schrader can't get the job done through the air, again, they were 121st in the pass last year. If he's not getting the ball, moving it vertically, and we're relying so much on his legs and Sean Tucker's legs, we might have to make a change. So it's one of those things where are you willing to sack risk versus reward? We're giving up a quarterback that gives us that extra dual threat ability, the ability to escape the pocket for a quarterback that can move us quicker and get us down the field and is accurate and can throw. Or we just suck it up and say, hey, we can go away with the pass. Schrader can make plays every now and then, and we're going to hope for the best. So if I'm Babers, I'm sticking with Schrader at least through the Purdue game, unless he just bums. In which case, then you have to look at making a change. But right now, I think Schrader's the man.
Well, honestly, that was a great explanation. I mean, I'm excited to see what this game is going to be. This is honestly going to be a really good game. I mean, hopefully it's not a blowout like it was last year. Hopefully that, Syracuse can put up a fight. I think they will. So my overall predictions, I think the first two quarters, we're going to see kind of a back and forth. Both teams are trying to find their lane. They're trying to figure out, how they need to approach the situation, how they need to attack, how they need to defend. One of the things that Louisville is trying to focus on is mentality issue of finishing. That was one thing that they had issues with last year, was finishing on third downs, fourth downs. It was something that, was a mentality issue where they would get to 3rd and 3 and they would just go, okay, well, we've already blocked them, or we've stopped them at the line. That's it. It's going to be 4th down. They're going to punt. And what we saw was time after time, they got ran over. Obviously, that was one of the things that they touched on during spring practice, was the fact that they are working on executing and finishing. So I expect to see a revitalized defense. Hopefully the Louisville defense will be able to stop Syracuse. So our final predictions for the game, what do you think the score is going to be?
I do think Louisville wins this game. I will tell you that. I predicted that when we did we predicted every single team in college football, and we did game by game predictions for every ACC team. Have Louisville win this game, and I think it's going to be somewhere. I'd say probably a 31-20 type game, somewhere around there. 31-23, 24. I would be shocked if Syracuse honestly exceeded 24 points. I think that would be a shock for me. But I think Louisville's offense, we've seen the last couple of years they have dominated Syracuse. It hasn't even been close, and last year was telling of that. I agree with you. I think it's more competitive. So I'm, 31. I think 31 sounds about right for Louisville, and then put Syracuse anywhere from 17 to 24. But I'll hone in on 31, and let's do 31-21. That'll be my prediction.
Okay, my prediction. I think Syracuse is going to be able to score maybe twice, maybe get a couple field goals. I would like to see, I don't see them going over 24, like you said. I can see them definitely sticking to maybe, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They get 1 field goal, 2 touchdowns. So 17 to maybe 31-34 for Louisville. So essentially they're going to try. I can see them trying, but I think in the 3rd and 4th quarter, they're going to lose steam. And I think it's just going to be overwhelming, especially with Louisville's offense. And I think defensively, they're going to be able to stop them. So I think this is going to be a very exciting game at first. And I think by the 3rd, 4th quarter, they're going to start losing speed. All right. Well,
excellent take.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you for coming on the show, giving your analysis of what you think is going to happen, the roster, your overall predictions, and thanks for being a part of Cardinal Craze again.
Hey, absolutely.
Well, for the most part, Card Nation, it's coming up. We got less than 2 weeks to go, and we're actually a week away from general college football returning. Definitely leave a comment down below. Definitely check out the Gridiron Expert on YouTube, Twitter. I don't know if you got an Instagram yet. If you do, we'll link it down in the bio. And for the most part, Card Nation, this has been John and Alex. Go Cards.